Frozen 2 is on its way. Are you ready to see what Elsa and Anna are up against this time? From fiery battles to mysterious warnings, it's set to be a smash hit. Stay tuned to get all the insider knowledge on what you can expect from the sequel. Hey guys, welcome back to The Binger. Frozen 2 is mere months away, and no one is more excited than us. The second trailer was released this week, so what better time to look at all the info we know so far? From confirmed actors to intriguing new trailer-driven clues, this is your one-stop shop for everything Arendelle. Are you ready? In the new trailer that was dropped on June 11th, fans finally got a deeper insight into what the movie has in store. Up until this point, we only had the first trailer to go on, and that was very brief. No dialogue was included, leaving us to connect the dots. This new snippet gives us a plethora of new info to toy with. One particularly poignant part shows a troll telling the gang that the past is not what it seems. You must find the truth. Intriguing or what? This could give weight to the fan theory concerning Anna and Elsa's parents. Some believe that they never really perished at all, but were subjected to something else entirely. The troll goes on to send the gang across the enchanted land with a warning, but we'll touch more on that part later. One thing is for sure, this sequel looks a lot darker and more dramatic than the first movie. Not only will the kids be entertained, but there's enough grit here to keep the adults glued to the screen too. Almost a year ago, it was confirmed that the Westworld actress Evan Rachel Wood and This Is Us star Sterling K. Brown have roles in the sequel. This was big news, as up until that point, we just knew that the old fan favorites were returning. Menzel, Belle, Gad, they were always going to be in the second movie. And frankly, if they weren't on board, then there would have been absolutely no point in making a sequel, right? As for Wood and Brown, they've both kept mum on what parts they'll be playing. Seeing as there are two new faces in the first trailer, it doesn't take a genius to put two and two together. However, although we might know what the characters look like, we still don't know who they are. Some speculate that they're distant relatives of Anna and Elsa. Others think that maybe they're the ill-fated king and queen in the past. There are 1,000,001 theories that we can get into with this one. But it's interesting to note the petition for Elsa to have a girlfriend. It gained an impressive number of signatures. Although it's neither been confirmed nor denied, Menzel said she would be up for it. Wood is an avid supporter of the LGBTQ community and bisexual herself. It would make sense that she'd want to bring a pioneering character like that to life. I guess we'll just have to watch this space and see what happens here. Let's hop back to the new trailer with this one. There's a lot of interesting tidbits that we could pull from it, but this one strikes a chord. When Lee and Buck were first writing the story in 2013, Elsa was going to be the villain. There are some deleted scenes that show how deplorable she was going to be. It was miles away from the concept that they landed on in the end. Once they saw the potential in her, Elsa soon became a good character that everyone loved. In this new trailer, the trolls warn Anna about her sister's magic, telling her that they've always feared her powers, and that they were too much for this world. Now, we must hope they are enough. That, along with the few visuals of underwater ice horses and floating diamond shapes, are all we have to go on. But they could be hugely important clues. Could this imply that Elsa might get into hot water with her powers once more? Or is another threat much greater? It looks like she's discovering how boundless her powers really are. It's not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that she might end up going a little crazy with power. Either that, or her newfound freedom might go to her head, making her a little reckless. We can't wait to find out what the whole story is. Fans have waited a long time for the second movie, and it's hard to believe that the first one came out way back in 2013, starting a craze that really hasn't slowed down. Almost as soon as it landed, people were itching for a sequel. Thankfully, the powers that be listened, or looked at the insane revenue and knew it was a must-do. Originally, Disney pegged Frozen 2 for a November 27th release. That date is a favorite with the studio, who unleashed Frozen on the world at the same time a few years back. When execs plan a release date, they have to be tactical about it. After all, there's no point in churning a ton of money into a project only to see it set up against a tough competition. With that in mind, Disney decided to revise the release date to November 22nd. This way, the movie isn't up against anything big and still has a good chance of storming the box office. December might seem like the most obvious time to put out a movie, but that is a tough month. Star Wars Episode 9 is coming out this year, and let's face it, There's no one more dedicated to the cinematic experience than a Star Wars fan. It wouldn't be an epic movie if there wasn't some sort of conflict, would it? The great thing about Frozen is that it could go any one of a million ways. The story and the characters are multifaceted, complex, and, well, smarter than your average cartoon. It's one of the things that made the original movie so darn successful. Both Anna and Elsa had depths, reaching further than most Disney characters have ever gone. So with so many different options available to them, the writers would have been spoiled for choice. But in any good Disney flick, there are goodies and baddies. As the first trailer showed two new characters, one seemingly a girl with powers, many thought that they could be the new villains. Regardless if they are or not, the new trailer seems to indicate some sort of battle. A pink, dazzling flame spreads through the forest as people look on in confusion. Visually, it looks awesome, with all these bright and bold colors flashing up on the screen in quick succession. Whatever the cause is, it leaps from tree to tree like it's skipping stones. As Elsa's powers are to do with ice, it can't be her. At least, it's unlikely to be her anyway. Who do you think the big bad will be? Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck could have never predicted just how their movie would take off. Although they likely had a feeling for how magical the story would be in the eyes of children, no one ever presumes something is going to be a success. You can't take anything for granted in the entertainment industry. If you do, it'll bite you on the behind quicker than you can say action. As they spearheaded the efforts of the first movie, they were natural choices to return. Buck and Lee have had a good run of things since 2013 too. Chris spent a lot of time thinking about the sequel and making the animated short Frozen Fever. Even a short movie takes up an incredible number of man-hours, which you might not realize when watching it. The 8-minute long snippet took an astonishing 6 months to make, so it's not a walk in the park. Lee, on the other hand, has been busy climbing up the Disney ladder. While she also co-wrote and directed Frozen Fever, she also co-wrote Zootopia. You can say that she likes to be kept busy. The House of Mouse has recognized her efforts by making her the head of Walt Disney Animation Studios. It just goes to show that good things come to those who work hard. While Lee's promotion is something to sing about, it will likely mean that she'll have to take a step back from other creative projects. But at least we get Frozen 2 from her though. We know what you're thinking. Why change the game when it's already playing so well, right? Well, new energy can be a blessing in a lot of ways. As we've just mentioned, Buck and Lee co-wrote the story to the first movie together. Lee alone was credited for the screenplay, as she took the helm in that one. While Lee and Buck are undoubtedly the driving forces behind the plot of Frozen 2, the studio brought in Allison Schroeder. Allison wrote the screenplay, and she's no novice either. She's an Oscar-nominated writer, having previously been recognized for her Hidden Figures screenplay. Although she's still fairly new to Disney, she had a hand in Christopher Robin. Since then, she's worked on a handful of selected projects. But it was Hidden Figures that got her the big break she needed. Although Allison has the sole credit for the screenplay, it's likely that the story will be heavily influenced by Buck and Lee. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Although the entire cast and crew have remained incredibly secretive about the plot, we have been given some very general hints. As we all know, the first movie was about Elsa's journey into accepting her powers. After spending most of her life scared and unable to control her magic, she eventually reunites with her sister. It looks like the bond between them is the key to everything. In Frozen Fever, we saw Elsa keen to make up for all the birthdays she missed when she was in isolation. She goes above and beyond to make her sister's big day a hit, but comes down with an awful cold. This is the first glimpse we got into what life is like for Elsa now, and according to Chris Buck, this will be explored much further. Buck told Fandango, Elsa had such a dramatic journey, and at the end, she's just starting to feel like she can open up and have some fun again. Olaf actor Josh Gad has admitted that he wants to see Olaf grow up a little too in the sequel. Similarly, Kristen Bell said that her own personal experiences helped writers to shape Anna in the second movie. Whatever lies in store for these guys, we know it's gonna be big. One of the best parts of any successful Disney movie is its songs. It's a surefire way to engage young audiences, and a really handy marketing tool. Back in 2013, everyone was singing Let It Go like there was no tomorrow. People appeared on talent shows belting it out, kids were humming it in their sleep. Is it any wonder that it won the Academy Award for Best Original Song? While this latest trailer looks edgier, you can expect more incredible songs. Husband and wife duo Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez are back on board for this outing. And it's a good thing too, as there really isn't anyone better for the job. And who knows, maybe they've come up with something even better than Let It Go. It seems like an impossible task, but they were also the brains behind Remember Me from Coco. That also won them an Oscar, which ain't half bad.
Greetings, Binger Watchers! Frozen featured some of the catchiest songs in Disney history. And now with Frozen 2 on the horizon, fans will soon be treated to even more tunes from the Kingdom of Arendelle. There will be 7 new songs in the sequel, and fans at D23 Expo were given a preview of 3 of them. Based on the lyrics, it seems these songs may provide clues to the plot of the movie. In this video, we'll explore what the new songs could mean for Anna and Elsa in Frozen 2. Frozen was a massive success when it came out in 2013. Despite that, co-directors Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck weren't planning to make a sequel. That is until fans started asking them exactly how Elsa got her powers. That query led them to ponder over unresolved plot details like where Anna and Elsa's parents were going when their ship went down. Soon the directors realized they had a story to tell for a sequel after all. Frozen 2 picks up 3 years after the events of the first movie, and it will explore the question of Elsa's powers at the same time as it explores what happened to her and Anna's parents. In order to do that though, Elsa will spend most of the movie on a journey that takes her far away from Arendelle. It may also lead her to encounter magic beyond anything she could have ever imagined. Luckily, the one thing we know for sure is that Elsa will be accompanied on her journey by Anna, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven. While Frozen 2 will take place mostly in the present, it will also briefly revisit the past. Footage at D23 showed a flashback to Anna and Elsa's childhood, in which the girls are put to bed by their mother, Queen Iduna. This is where the first new song comes in. The song is a lullaby sung by Queen Iduna, who will be voiced by Evan Rachel Wood. It is then reprised by Anna to comfort Elsa, who's preoccupied by a mysterious voice that only she can hear. Both characters appear to know the lullaby their mother used to sing by heart. It goes like this. Where the north wind meets the sea, there's a river full of memory. Sleep, my darling, safe and sound, for in this river all is found. While the song could just be a simple folk ballad, fans have speculated that it's far more meaningful than that. They believe the song's lyrics offer an important clue about Elsa's powers. This theory states that Queen Iduna was trying to tell Elsa that she can discover where her powers came from, where the north wind meets the sea. The idea speaks to the first full-length trailer for Frozen 2, in which Elsa attempts to traverse a windy ocean. Could this be where her search for answers begins? If Queen Iduna was indeed trying to communicate a message about the origins of her powers to Elsa, that opens up another question. Why did the Queen have to hide the message in a song? Why didn't she just tell Elsa where to find answers outright? Fans believe they know the answer to that too, and their theory is backed up by the second trailer for the movie. In the first film, it seemed to be Anna and Elsa's father King Agnar's idea to isolate Elsa and encourage her to conceal her powers. Yet it was clear this wasn't the first time the king and queen had encountered the kind of magic Elsa possesses. That's how they knew to go to the trolls for help when Elsa accidentally hurt Anna while the sisters were playing. The second trailer for Frozen 2 offers some support for the possibility. The trailer starts with a flashback in which King Agnar tells a young Anna and Elsa a story about an enchanted forest far to the north. However, something went horribly wrong with the forest's magic, and no one has been able to get in or out ever since. While Anna is captivated by the story, King Agnar could be telling it to his daughters as a cautionary tale. The experience may have taught him just how quickly magic can become dangerous. That early encounter may also have solidified King Agnar's feelings about magic. So when Elsa's powers showed the first sign of danger, he overreacted. While the king may have become fearful of his daughter's powers, it's possible that the queen didn't share his perspective. So singing the lullaby to her daughters let the queen pass on information to them without King Agnar noticing. By remembering the lullaby their mother sang to them long ago, Anna and Elsa will discover they already have information that could help them. A clue that will take them on an adventure to the north. The footage from D23 shows that Anna's rendition of their mother's lullaby helps Elsa sleep. Unfortunately, she doesn't rest long before she's once again woken up by the voice that's been calling to her. After she unsuccessfully attempts to block it out, Elsa starts to sing another song. Titled Into the Unknown, the song is being touted as an epic showstopper that will please fans who are looking for another Let It Go. Into the Unknown is packed with lyrics in which Elsa ponders how she should respond to the voice and speaks to her unease with her powers. They include, "Are you here to distract me so I make a big mistake? Or are you someone out there who's a little bit like me who knows deep down I'm not where I'm meant to be? Every day's a little harder as I feel my power grow. Don't you know there's a part of me that longs to go into the unknown? The lyrics indicate just how much Elsa longs for answers about her powers, even though she attempts to resist the urge. It's her decision to give in to the feeling to seek out answers that catalyzes the plot for the rest of the movie. In addition, based on Frozen 2's second trailer, Elsa's need to go on a journey for answers may also coincide with a threat to Arendelle. That means Elsa's actions could help her both discover her origins and save her kingdom. In the trailer, Arendelle is attacked by an onslaught of wind and the autumn leaves that accompany them. The trolls then inform Anna and Elsa that in order to save the kingdom, Elsa must find the voice that's calling her, as it may have answers. This could be another part of the scene that is shown in the first trailer, in which the trolls tell Elsa that she must go north to find the truth. If that's the case, Elsa, Anna, and their friends' journey will have huge stakes for everyone. The final song previewed at D23 was sung live by Frozen 2's voice actors, Idina Menzel, Kristen Bell, Josh Gad, and Jonathan Groff. Entitled Some Things Never Change, the song reportedly boasts a fall theme with references to pumpkins and a general message about friendship. The fall theme of this song could be significant. One of the running theories about Frozen 2 is that Elsa won't be the only one with powers. In fact, many have speculated that Elsa will be one of 4 powered individuals who each have magic that comes from a different season. Then there's this hint from Disney head of animation Becky Brissy and head of effects Marlon West. During an interview, they said that there is a disconnect between the people of Arendelle and the elements of air, fire, water, and earth. It's a disconnect that originated during King Agnar's youth when he encountered magic in the Enchanted Forest. So instead of the seasons, perhaps there will be new characters with powers connected to different elements. Elsa's ice powers are connected to winter and water, yet we also seem to glimpse the other 3 powers in Frozen 2's first and second trailers. That indicates that the movie will introduce us to these powered individuals. First, the wind and leaves that seem to attack Arendelle could come from someone who's connected to the season of fall and the element of air. These powers also appear to be at work in the Enchanted Forest King Agnar speaks of. In the second trailer, Anna, Elsa, and the gang journey to the Enchanted Forest. Although the area is shut in by a cloud of smoke, it parts to let the group pass. Once inside, the forest's trees can be seen to be covered in fall-colored leaves. The group seems to encounter the other elements in the Enchanted Forest as well. In both trailers, fire appears to consume the Enchanted Forest. And at one point, the element appears to jump from tree to tree in a way that indicates someone is controlling it. Could this be the individual with summer and fire powers? In addition, both trailers indicate that there are giant rock monsters creeping around the Enchanted Forest. Perhaps the individual associated with spring and earth powers made them, just like Elsa made the snow monster Marshmallow in the first Frozen. Fans have speculated that Anna and Elsa's journey into the unknown could lead them to learn even more about their family's past. One major question mark has been the identity of the red-headed girl and blonde boy that appear in the teaser trailer. One theory has it that these are Anna and Elsa's parents when they were younger. If that's true, then it could be that Queen Iduna herself had elemental powers, which would mean Elsa inherited her powers from her mother. One character who will be able to shed light on some of these questions is a new character voiced by Sterling K. Brown, Lieutenant Matthias. We get our first glimpse at the character in the second trailer for the sequel. Matthias worked for Anna and Elsa's grandfather and knew their father as a boy. That is until he and his men were trapped in the Enchanted Forest where they've spent the past 30 years. Matthias has clearly missed a lot after being away from Arendelle for so long. However, he also has insight into Anna and Elsa's family that the sisters might not be privy to. That could be especially true if a childhood encounter in the Enchanted Forest left King Agnar suspicious of magic. Fans have also speculated that in Frozen 2, Anna and Elsa may discover that Queen Iduna and perhaps King Agnar are alive. Is it possible the couple were traveling to the Enchanted Forest and ended up trapped there? One way or another, it seems that Anna and Elsa will need to learn more about their family's past if they want to help both Elsa and Arendelle. We can't wait to see if any of these theories are true when Frozen 2 hits the big screen on November 22nd. Do you think we're right about the meaning behind these new Frozen 2 songs? Or do you have any other theories? And which of these songs are you most looking forward to hearing when the movie comes out? Use your powers to share your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Binger for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Binger. In a few months, Frozen 2 will be unleashed upon the world, and we just can't wait. For what feels like the first time in forever, we may finally get some answers to the questions raised in the original movie. Are Anna and Elsa's parents really gone? Will Anna marry Kristoff? Will Elsa find love? And most importantly, just how did Elsa get her powers? Join us as we take a look at some theories which could explain where Elsa's ice magic came from. You may be surprised at some of what we found. Number 1. It's a family thing. This might be one of the simplest theories out there, but it still opens up a whole lot of possibilities. The 2013 movie throws around a lot of hints about how much Elsa's parents know about her powers, but ultimately leaves it up to us to speculate. When her parents take her to visit the trolls, they tell them that she was born with her powers. We also catch a glimpse of a book full of ancient Nordic runes that shows a picture of a person with the same sort of powers. It appears that the book has been handed down throughout the years, which could be evidence that magic is in Elsa's genes and not a random thing that happened out of the blue. So if Elsa was born with her magic, there might be something in her family lineage that has been passed down to her. Most of us might get our dad's eyes or our mom's nose, but Elsa got terrifying ice powers that she didn't know how to control. No big deal. If the theory is true and Elsa's powers came from her parents, fans might see her get a new level of accepting herself from knowing more about who her family really is. That could also bode well for the second movie, as it's been suggested that Anna will discover that she has powers of her own, although of a very different kind. Number 2. She's part troll. As we've already mentioned, the trolls seem to be the experts on Elsa's condition. They do what they can to cure Anna when Elsa accidentally hurts her as a child, and are generally into all that abracadabra stuff. What if the trolls are somehow distantly related to the king and queen of Arendelle, and that's how Elsa inherited her powers? It might explain a few things, like why the trolls seem to be so familiar with the royal family, and why they're so keen for Kristoff to marry Anna when they meet her. Kristoff was raised by them, but isn't related to them by blood. So in the grand Disney movie tradition of nepotism, of course, they would want him to marry Anna if the theory was true. Plus, if the trolls have a close relationship with a human now, then one could have been close to another human before. Real close if you catch our drift. If that seems a little too nuts to be true, just remember that this is a world where a girl can shoot ice out of her hands and a snowman can survive in the summer. Think about it. Does ice magic came from? You may be surprised at some of what we found. Number 3. She's a cursed child. No, we're not talking about Harry Potter. We've seen a lot of Disney classics that involve curses over the years. There was Snow White, who ate a poisoned apple and fell into a deep sleep, and Sleeping Beauty, who pricked her finger and, well, fell into a deep sleep. Plus, let's not forget about the poor genie in Aladdin who was trapped in the lamp for 10,000 years. Talk about torture. While there aren't any spell-induced comas in Frozen, that doesn't mean there isn't a hex or two flying around. Kings and queens usually manage to make some enemies over the years. So it wouldn't be surprising if Elsa's parents crossed the wrong person at some point and their daughter's powers weren't inherited at all. The trolls also asked them if she was born or cursed, implying that it was one or the other. If it turned out that it was a curse after all, could there be a cure for Elsa out there? Would she even want one now that she's managed to control her abilities? And if someone else is behind it, could they also be responsible for the king and queen's untimely passing at sea? If they really are gone, that is. Number 4. It's part of a prophecy. We all like a good old prophecy, don't we? Think back to Disney's Sword in the Stone and the moment that King Arthur claims Excalibur. So what if Elsa is really part of a much bigger plan that has yet to fully unfold? When screenwriter Jennifer Lee was quizzed on the origin of Elsa's powers, she admitted that it was definitely a possibility that she had considered, saying, "At times we had a narration by a troll, who used to have a Brooklyn accent. We had this whole explanation like, when Saturn is in this alignment on the 1000th year, a child will be born." It's a cool plotline. But it was left out of the 2013 movie, presumably to keep us guessing. But that doesn't mean that we won't see it used some other way in the sequel though. It's exciting to think that Elsa and Anna may be guided by a destiny much bigger than they realize, isn't it? Number 5. The powers were a gift. We've explored the possibility of Elsa having been cursed. But what if it was really a gift? Let's take a look at the story of Sleeping Beauty for a moment. At Princess Aurora's christening, the three good fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, each give her a lifelong blessing. She was given the gifts of beauty, song, and of course the ability to withstand perishing under Maleficent's curse. With so many plausible connections throughout the Disney universe, it's possible that fairies attended a celebration of Elsa's birth. What if one of the gifts was Elsa's powers? It could have been a very thoughtful idea that backfired. Or maybe it was part of a plan for Elsa to become a great queen who understood how dangerous the misuse of power can be. It's a thinker, that's for sure. Number 6. Science experiment gone wrong. This one is a little off the wall, but hang in there. Remember, everything is possible, especially in Disney movies. We've seen how evil some of Arendale's neighbors are, haven't we? Prince Hans certainly turned out to be a schemer. Another fan theory going around is that Elsa's mother was subjected to some weird and wacky experiments during her pregnancy. Who did it? Who knows? But like we've already said, it's not unusual for a king and queen to have enemies. Elsa could have been a completely normal baby up until that point. Conspiracy theories like this can be fun to think about, especially as it would introduce a villain that we haven't met yet. Prince Hans was a solid bad guy and all, but if there's an evil puppet master behind the scenes, we're all ready to meet him, aren't we? Number 7. Her aunt is the Snow Queen. Let's go a little bit off the beaten path with this one. The character of Elsa also made an appearance in the popular ABC show Once Upon a Time. The series focused on fairy tale characters living in a modern world thanks to a curse. In this incarnation, Elsa and Anna are the nieces of the Snow Queen, who's based on the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. Although the writers of Once Upon a Time created their own universe that blended the stories of tons of classic Disney characters together, the theory certainly supports the school of thought that Elsa's powers were inherited, not bestowed. It's an interesting twist, and although not a connection we're ever likely to see explored in Frozen, the best theories are often the ones that throw us for a loop, aren't they? Number 8. Her mom ate a magical plant. Remember when eagle-eyed fans spotted Rapunzel and Eugene from Tangled at Elsa's coronation? It's now widely assumed that Rapunzel and Elsa are actually cousins, with some fans believing that the king and queen died on their way to Rapunzel's wedding. Rapunzel got her magical hair powers after her pregnant mother consumed a magical herb that was used to cure her illness. If Rapunzel and Elsa's moms really were sisters, what's to say that the Queen of Arendelle didn't use a magical herb herself? Neither of them may have realized the effects on their children until it was too late. This might also explain why the woodland-dwelling trolls understand the affliction, since a magical plant, as they say, could be used as part of a curse, or in Rapunzel's case, result in a side effect one is born with. Many Disney movies are like a quest to connect the dots, which is part of the charm. Fans love to pore over the clues, and if revealed, this hypothesis would take the crossover potential to a whole new level. Number 9. The stars aligned. When you live in a Disney world, you've got to watch out for a few things. Mad fairies that want you to prick your finger on a spinning wheel, evil stepmothers who send huntsmen after you, crazy voodoo kings who want you to live your life as a frog. Yeah, there is a lot to be wary of. Some fans believe that Elsa just happened to be born at the right date and time. The theory is that she was born on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, which, however improbable, resulted in her getting her powers. Life isn't always easy, and some things just happen for no reason. But regardless of whether magic, fate, accident, or other characters intervening, you just have to roll with what life throws at you. And surviving and thriving in spite of whatever's thrown at her is one of the easiest things to love about Elsa.
Hi, Frozen fans! Welcome to The Binger! We learned about Elsa's spectacular ice powers in the movie Frozen, but we never discovered just where those powers came from. Were they passed down from her mother? Was there another source? Why didn't her sister Anna have powers too? The sequel answers those questions and also reveals that there's even more powerful magic in the world than Anna or Elsa realized. To find out what they need to know to save Arendelle, the sisters Kristoff, Sven, and Olaf journey north to an enchanted forest. There they learn more about the source of Elsa's powers as well as all the other magic that exists. At the same time, Elsa's powers continue to grow.
He's crazy.
In this video, we're ranking all the powers that have the potential to come up in Frozen 2. But don't forget, there are possible spoilers ahead. In the latest Frozen 2 trailer, Elsa is seen bonding with a small lizard. Well, it turns out that lizard is actually a salamander, and his name is Bruni.
Wow.
Bruni lives in the Enchanted Forest, and an official press release from Disney says he's curious and cute. And it's possible that's all he is. After all, it wouldn't be the first time that Disney put a cute little critter in one of its movies just to make the audience go, Yet, what if Bruni is more? He lives in a forest that's supposed to be filled with magic after all. And Disney's press release notes that he's drawn to Elsa's icy powers and enjoys the cool snowflake treats that she creates. Of course, Bruni could just be in it for the treats, but his interest in Elsa's magic could also be something more. Could Bruni have ice powers too? And could they somehow be linked to Elsa's powers? We'll find out. The one thing we know for sure is that the rock trolls who set Elsa, Anna, and their friends on their journey have powerful magic. We saw it in action in Frozen when Elsa accidentally hurt Anna with her ice powers when they were children. The trolls were able to heal Anna from what looked like a pretty serious injury. On top of that, they were able to erase any hint of magic from Anna. If healing magic and the power to manipulate memories weren't enough, the trolls are also very long-lived and wise. So just like their parents turned to the trolls to help their daughter, Anna and Elsa turned to the trolls to help them save Arendelle. In the first trailer, it's the trolls that instruct Elsa to find out the truth about her past by going north to the Enchanted Forest. It's advice that Elsa clearly takes seriously, as that's exactly what she does. Then in the second trailer, the trolls tell Anna that she must be there for Elsa because otherwise Elsa may lose herself to magic. Anna insists on accompanying her sister on her quest, and one of the reasons for that could be the trolls' advice. If ever there was a wise sage in Arendelle, it's Pabby, the trolls' leader. Elsa had her ice powers as long as she can remember. As a result, fans have speculated that she may have inherited those powers from her mother. We don't see much of Anna and Elsa's parents in Frozen. They're shipwrecked at sea early in the film and never get to see their older daughter finally let it go. Sorry. We see more of them in Frozen 2 though, and one of the things that has fans talking is a snippet from the first trailer where Iduna is looking out the window at the Northern Lights. Apparently in Norse folklore, the Northern Lights are said to be able to predict the weather and also whisk people away. Could Iduna have powers that are somehow attached to the Northern Lights? We have some evidence that could support this theory. Throughout the trailers for the movie, a young boy who looks like King Agnar and a young girl who could be Queen Iduna appear. They are shown in a flashback to what appears to be the Enchanted Forest when Agnar was a boy. It's possible that's where he met Iduna, and the wind powers we see in those scenes might even come from her. Elsa's ice powers appear to be deeply connected to nature. Maybe she's not the only one in her family to have elemental magic. We already know from Frozen that Elsa's ice powers are impressive. Not only did she plunge her kingdom into a frigid winter even if it wasn't deliberate, she created a whole castle out of ice. And in Frozen 2, we can expect to see Elsa's expertise with her ice magic grow. In the trailers, we've seen her generate ice that allows her to walk across a stormy ocean. At least for a little while. She suspends millions of ice crystals in the air. She staves off fire with her powers. And if that wasn't enough, she creates huge pillars while jumping through the air. Elsa's powers show just how useful snow and ice can be in the right circumstances. And Elsa is very creative with her wintry magic. In the second trailer for Frozen 2, King Agnar tells Anna and Elsa a bedtime story about an enchanted forest. He talks about what a magical place it was until something went wrong. Since that time, no one has been able to get in or out. Yet in the movie, the Enchanted Forest is no fairy tale. It plays an important role for Anna and Elsa's adventure. The thing is, just as their father told them, the forest has cut itself off from the rest of the world for the past 30 years. We don't know exactly what went wrong, but we do know an intimidating wall of fog continues to keep people from entering. Yet that fog parts to allow Elsa inside the forest. So the forest definitely has some sort of awareness, and it also seems to have some nature-derived power that it uses to protect itself. Perhaps Elsa's nature-based powers connect her to the powers of the forest. Head of animation Becky Brissy explained that there is a rift between the people of Arendelle and the elements stemming from the closed-off forest. Perhaps Elsa is the first link the forest's elemental powers has had to Arendelle since it cut itself off. While the source of Elsa's powers are the focus of Frozen 2, fans have also wondered why Anna doesn't have powers like her sister. It's possible in Frozen 2 we'll get some answers to this question, and one of those answers could be that Anna actually does have powers. We know from Frozen that Pabby the Troll removed magic from Anna, memories and all. In the process, could he have kept Anna from manifesting any power, even if it was lying dormant inside her? It certainly seems like a plausible theory. Fans have speculated that based on her coloring and clothing, Anna could possess the powers of summer. That would put her in balance with her sister's winter powers and lead to even more discoveries about Anna and Elsa's family in Frozen 2. One of the most ominous beings we see in the Frozen 2 trailers are huge rock monsters. Elsa hides behind a tree from one, they throw boulders in the forest, Kristoff and Sven run from them, and one rises imposingly above the trees. These magical creatures are likely tied to the Enchanted Forest, or at least they've been trapped there for the past 30 years, and they don't appear to take kindly to strangers in their territory. The rock monsters seem to be inspired by Norse mythology in which giants occupied the rocky land of Jotunheim. In Frozen 2, these forest-dwelling sentient rocks appear to be one of the most dangerous things Anna, Elsa, and the gang encounter. Speaking of Norse mythology, another example comes in the form of the horse Elsa encounters underwater. When Elsa attempts to use her ice powers to walk over the crashing ocean, a strong wave eventually breaks up her ice, and she plunges into the water. There, she's approached by a horse. This horse is actually a water spirit called a Knock, who happens to take the form of a horse. The Knock's job is to guard the secrets of the Enchanted Forest, so taming the horse could be the first step towards entering it. However, this could be very hard to do. A person has to prove they're worthy to get past the Knock, and few people do. Although the Knock is supposed to be fiercely intimidating, the second trailer indicates that Elsa manages to win over this mythical creature. She's shown grabbing the horse's leg and then swinging onto his back and riding him off across the water. The pink fire that appears in Frozen 2's trailers has proven to be singularly enigmatic. Despite being shown multiple times, it's unclear where the fire comes from or why. One thing that is clear, though, is that it's not a benevolent force. Not only is it the element that seems to trigger the forest to close itself off, it also jumps from tree to tree and surrounds Elsa. So it seems that the fire is another elemental power that's being controlled by something. Or maybe something we haven't met yet. We also know that the Enchanted Forest contains a wind spirit named Gale, who can pick up objects and mimic other beings. However, Gale is described as playful, so while Gale's magic also comes from nature, just like the pink fire, its magic isn't hostile the way the pink fire seems to be. Apparently, there's all kinds of magic in the Enchanted Forest. Coming in at number 1 in our ranking is Elsa's magic powers. Of course, we know Elsa has ice powers, but it seems she's developed powers that go beyond that. And that's the magic we're talking about here. When Elsa and her party enter the Enchanted Forest, they encounter a new character, Lieutenant Matthias. Matthias has been trapped in the forest for the past 30 years, but was originally a soldier of Arendelle. Given how long he's been in the forest, he's no longer a stranger to magic. Yet he asks Elsa in astonishment how she learned it. Of course, Elsa comes by her powers naturally. However, we know from Frozen 2's song Into the Unknown that Elsa's powers are growing. And one of the ways this could be happening is by expanding her powers beyond ice magic. We already have evidence that Elsa's magic extends beyond controlling ice and snow. Elsa made both Olaf and Marshmallow the snow monster. While she could use her ice powers to create their forms, bringing them to life is another matter entirely. And in Frozen 2, we may discover that Elsa's powers go beyond giving life to typically inanimate objects. That would mean she's massively powerful.
Disney has become an ingenious money-making machine, making movie after movie that seems to appeal to pretty much everyone. It's no surprise that in Frozen 2 there's more than enough humor to satisfy the 12 and under audience. But what about their parents? Disney has not forgotten them. In fact, the movie is almost as adult-oriented as it is kid-friendly. Here are all the moments in Frozen 2 that were carefully calculated to fly right over kids' heads and give their parents something to laugh about. To understand most of these moments, a little context is necessary. So we'll be explaining a little bit about what went down in Frozen 2, which means we will be spoiling the plot. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to save this video for later. Don't say we didn't warn you. Usually, a Disney movie will be full of raunchy, or at least Disney raunchy jokes to make the parents in the room feel welcome. But Frozen 2 was lighter on these. We didn't get one of these explicit moments until the very end of the movie during Anna's coronation. Kristoff is a handsome guy, but he's not known for his natty dressing. He's more the outdoorsy type, a reindeer-riding Scandinavian cowboy who prefers leather and wool to velvet and lace. But then Elsa abdicates her throne to her sister, who also happens to be Kristoff's fiancé. So Kristoff and Olaf get all dressed up for the occasion and slick back their hair. They look sharp and Anna is impressed, at the very least, by the effort. Kristoff, obviously uncomfortable in the clothes, says that he'll stay in the fancy getup for 1 hour. Anna ruffles his hair so that it falls naturally and says, "I prefer you in leather anyway." What does this mean? Well, YouTube is very strict about a lot of the words that would be helpful in explaining the, power dynamics of this relationship. What we can say is that Anna is the queen and so she's the boss of all the realm, which includes her fiancé. She is a dom, which is not short for Dominic, and Kristoff is her sub, a term which has nothing to do with subscribers. Not all the jokes in Frozen 2 are designed to appeal to only one demographic at a time. Some of them take aim at 3. Most notably in Olaf's song, When I Am Older, he sings about his present-day fears, comforting himself by imagining an older Olaf who will look back and see those fears as, in the grand scheme of a life fully lived, inconsequential. A kid might hear the line, "When I'm more mature, I'll be totally secure," and think, yeah, nice, okay. A teenager who was introduced to Frozen 6 years ago might have their doubts, but still cast them aside. But anyone with a few decades under their belt will be cackling at how obviously false this line is. The song is full of similar lyrics, some of them even more obvious, like this one. "There's no need to be terrified or tense, I'll just dream about a time when I'm in my aged prime, 'cause when you're older, absolutely everything makes sense." This joke isn't a sexual euphemism or a reference to adult-specific life circumstances. It's more of a song-length wink to a dated musical vibe that exists in many artists, but is embodied in its totality by one man, Michael Bolton. We're not allowed to play clips from songs in this video, but we are allowed to give you some suggestions for further listening. First on your Michael Bolton playlist should probably be the classic When a Man Loves a Woman. Next up could probably be Go the Distance from the Hercules soundtrack. This guy is an icon of a time gone by. Like Whitney Houston, Luther Vandross, or Rod Stewart. A painfully sincere crooner from an era long before most of Frozen's fans were even born. Kristoff's song, Lost in the Woods, is a callback to this era of music. The reindeer chorus singing behind him, the Celine Dion crossfades, and of course, the lyrics. Again you're gone, off on a different path than mine. I'm left behind, wondering if I should follow. Although the song does hold up as something for younger audiences to enjoy, the full extent of the humor doesn't quite translate. Also, a little reminder, if you haven't already, go and subscribe to The Binger right now. And turn on notifications so we can cut out the YouTube middleman. If you're on mobile, you can turn on the YouTube notifications through the app's settings. Although the song does hold up as something for younger audiences to enjoy, only parents will really get the joke. Jonathan Groff, also known as Christoph, was shocked that they were deciding to reference the big-haired crooner. "I couldn't believe that they were going to go there," he said. "Neither could we, but they did." Also, it's definitely worth checking out Michael Bolton's bizarre online shop, where you can buy greeting cards as well as his signature collection of fragrances called Time, Love, and Tenderness. This is how they're described on the site. "A perfume, like music, should provoke a mood and tell a story. Time, Love, and Tenderness does just that, evoking the essence of heartfelt love. The fragrance opens with notes of supple fruits like peach, apple, and orange, followed by the dreamy aroma of jasmine and violet. A lasting vanilla and musk base with a hint of amber makes for a feminine and passionate scent. With a little time, love, and tenderness, anything can happen." Elsa is in a giant dome in the depths of the glacier after riding Nock across the dark sea. She sees moments from her ancestral past playing all over the walls, most of which are grand, historical, and revelatory, but there's also a smaller moment here that's worth mentioning. A little projection shows her parents as young adults. Her dad, Agnar, is reading a book under the shade of one of those Northaldron birch trees. Iduna, her future mom, approaches him and asks what book he's reading. He replies, nonchalant, that it's just some new Danish author. Get it? This isn't just any old Danish author, this is the Danish author, Hans Christian Andersen. This is the guy who recorded countless folk tales back in the 19th century, including The Snow Queen, the book upon which Frozen's world is loosely based. He wrote a lot of other stories that you may recognize too, including The Little Mermaid, which is the source of another Disney classic, and also the small but surprisingly affecting statue in Denmark. And speaking of Denmark, that country and its other Scandinavian relatives are almost parodied in Frozen. The general look of the people in Arendelle, their cheeriness, their clothing, the fact that they're all white, the fact that they cover up a not-so-nice colonial history in favor of famous fairy tales. It's like they blended together the most cartoonish aspects of Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and Finland, and then set the clocks back 100 years. This is something that most kids do not know too much about. When you're young and your body's growing, sleep is just sleep. It happens hard and fast. But as you grow older, unless you belong to the lucky, unconflicted few of the world who pass out upon pillow contact, sleep is easier said than done. You want it all day, but when it's time to go to bed, no dice. You hear a little that tugs you towards everything you haven't yet done, and there's nothing to be done but get up out of bed and awaken the dormant spiritual elements. This is what it's like to grow up, kids, so get your sleep while you still can. As we've heard him belt out in his song When I Am Older, Olaf is growing up. Not only is he becoming more aware of himself, he's becoming more aware of that becoming. A lot of Olaf's most memorable lines in Frozen 2 are ones that acknowledge the change that's happening not only in him, but also in the audience. When he first enters the forest, he asks Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, and Sven, "Did you know that an enchanted forest is a place of transformation?" Although the tone of this line is easy to understand no matter what age you are, younger kids may have missed this little nod to the archetypal function of enchanted forests throughout the history of storytelling. He brings it back again, pointing out, with his usual lack of tact, "I feel like this forest has really changed us all." This one is definitely not a joke. When everyone was going on and on about how Frozen 2 would be darker than its predecessor, that the movie's tone would age along with its original audience, we just assumed that Elsa and Anna would be turning into angsty teenagers. What we didn't expect was that the core of Frozen 2's story is a Disney retelling of the North American colonial project. We learn about halfway through the movie the true history of Arendelle and its nomadic neighbors, the Northaldra. The dam that Elsa and Anna's grandfather built for them, supposedly as a peace offering, turns out to be an act of sabotage, a way to, quote, weaken their land, and thus weaken them. It turns out he also executed the unarmed Northaldra leader. This is pretty much a Disney-fied retelling of a story that has repeated itself countless times across much of the world, and the parallels are likely meant to be drawn to the North American instances of this. But also, there is a specific group that the North Aldra are supposed to represent. They're called the SAMI, and they're most commonly known as the Laps, as in Lapland in Norway. Like the North Aldra, they are a nomadic reindeer-herding people, and they've had their land taken from them more than a few times by the governments of both Norway and Finland. While making the movie, Disney apparently consulted with the representatives of Sami communities. But what point is the movie trying to make about the North Aldra, the Sami, and reparations in general? Well, Anna breaks down the dam as a gesture of reconciliation, but that dam breaking, as far as she knows, will destroy her whole kingdom. That's a pretty radical statement, Disney, and a far cry from Song of the South. Let's bring it back to some good old-fashioned innuendo. When the whole crew is in the cart on the way to the Enchanted Forest, Anna and Kristoff share a steamy, adult-only moment. In the back of the wagon, Elsa and Olaf have fallen asleep, so the lovebirds waste no time. Anna can feel the electricity in the air, and so she asks Kristoff coyly, "So, what do you want to do?" She puckers her lips, closes her eyes, and waits for Kristoff to reciprocate. Unfortunately, he's not in the mood. He's got more PG romance on his mind. The charades scene also has some subtleties that might be difficult for a kid to catch. This is actually a moment you may have seen in the trailer too. Olaf calls a lightning round of boys versus girls. He transforms into a unicorn, ice cream, a castle, a teapot, Oaken, and Mickey Mouse. But for his final form, he rearranges his snowballs, somehow conjures blue eyeshadow onto his lids, puts his head twig into a sideways braid, and sachets towards the camera. Kristoff guesses immediately, saying, "Ooh, Elsa." Anna is understandably miffed that her boyfriend saw the cookie-cutter's sexy shape and guessed that it was her sister rather than her. She crosses her arms and says, "I don't think Olaf should get to rearrange." There's a recurring line in the new movie, originally spoken by Olaf, about how, quote, "water has memory." Water, for Olaf, is pretty much blood. The same goes for Elsa. So what they're saying is that blood, genes even, have a sort of memory, and they can remember traumatic events of the past, maybe like Arendale's betrayal of the Northundra. This is big thinking for a movie that is supposed to be for kids. Frozen 2 has something to chew on for kids and adults alike, but does that mean it was a good movie?
No, Elsa, we can't simply let these facts go. The newest addition to the Frozen universe left many fans smiling and happy by the end. Still, it takes a lot to make that magic happen. Every film has a lot going on behind the scenes, but trust us when we say Frozen 2 is special.
I'm just living the dream, Anna.
Join us here at The Binger as we pull back the layers of this movie. You'll be shocked to learn what it took to write the next right thing and create Anna's character arc. Spoiler, it ties in deeply with actress Kristen Bell.
Forgive me, maturity is making me poetic.
The kingdom is not safe.
Here's a fact that'll totally shock you. This Disney film is unique. Okay, so it's not that shocking, but listen to this. For the first time ever, the Mickey Mouse Corp theatrically released a sequel for one of their Disney princess films. You're thinking to yourself, that can't be right. We encourage you to look it up. There have been plenty of sequels to Disney princess films, but they were all direct-to-VHS releases. Saying that feels just weird. Just mentioning VHS makes us feel like a dinosaur. But yes, we're talking about films like Little Mermaid 2: Return to the Sea. Heck, even the Golden Age films like Cinderella and Snow White never got sequel consideration. It literally took 3 ages of Disney animation for that to happen. Think about what this gesture tells us about Disney and this movie. Clearly there was a lot more invested in the sequel. From the animation team to the cast, Disney clearly reinvested their interest into stories that need to be told. Thank goodness they did, because we don't want to imagine this world without Frozen 2 in theaters. Alright, this is spoiler territory, so if your kid's watching with you and hasn't seen the movie, give them the old earmuffs treatment. This entry is all about that dark moment that spurs the third act of the film. Viewers who have seen the movie know exactly what we're talking about. Anna is all alone now, Olaf's nothing but a puddle, and Elsa is presumed to be gone. Hope is dim, and Anna is about to go all Arrested Development on us. She sings a beautiful song that we'll get to later and grows as a character. That moment is already unique, but the making of that scene just launches it into a whole other stratosphere. The writers wholly based Anna's character journey on Kristen Bell's real-life experience with codependence. Bell recognized her own struggles with using other people's happiness to define her own. It was a real raw performance in that animated cave. And Bell's proud of it. When director Jennifer Lee asked her what Anna struggles with, that was the answer, and that's what we got. The Sami people are indigenous to the Scandinavian region, and their culture features in the opening song of Frozen. The reference to their ancient vocal tradition and Kristoff's knockoff version of their clothes sparked debate on social media. To many, the allusions deserved more context and some kind of acknowledgement to where the inspirations were rooted. There's an argument to be made that Disney erased their culture in the first film. The lack of any kind of thanks rubbed so many people the wrong way. Fans argued that some sort of recognition was necessary for any sequel. Clearly, someone making Frozen 2 heard about this and aimed to make amends. It all started with trips to the region. The crew made multiple trips to Iceland, Norway, and their neighboring countries for pre-production. During those trips, they visited with Sami parliaments in Norway, Finland, and Sweden, as well as non-governmental councils. Disney signed an agreement and gave them advising credits on Frozen 2. It's not a perfect solution, but still, it was undoubtedly a step in the right direction for a company with a poor record with representing non-Western cultures. Please forgive us, we couldn't resist a Forrest Gump reference given the fact Sterling's character is a lieutenant. His role, Lieutenant Matthias, is one to remember. We're introduced to him as the group of adventurers brave the enchanted forest. If he didn't become your favorite after this film, we don't know what to tell you. Lieutenant Matthias proves his worth quickly and ends up becoming a pivotal character. We don't want to spoil his ending, but his connection to Yelena will bring a tear to your eye. However, something is worth noting about Brown's character. Matthias doesn't get a song in this movie, which is shocking when you put it in perspective. Olaf got at least one song in the first one. Heck, even the reindeer sing in Frozen 2. Well, it turns out they did have a song planned for him. Sterling K. Brown even recorded the track. Even more surprising, it was the first time Brown ever sang for an audition. In all his years as an incredibly talented actor, he never had to sing. We are shocked. Real quick before we move on, if you haven't already, subscribe to The Binger, and don't forget to turn on notifications because we all know how YouTube can sometimes be. And if you're on mobile, you can turn on notifications through YouTube settings. Enjoy the rest of the video. Jonathan Groff has Tony nominations for Spring Awakening and Hamilton to his name. Those are for his own roles too, not the shows in general. No question this guy can sing. If you're still doubting it, we've got a surprise for you. But before that, let's throw it back to the first Frozen. Kristoff charmed viewers and stole the hearts of thousands of viewers. The one thing everyone missed from Groff and his character was a solo song. The poor guy never got the spotlight, but to be fair, it wasn't the point of the movie. The whole story isn't even close to being about Kristoff and his reindeer Sven. Still, clearly the production team wanted to show off Groff's vocals. They could have kept it simple. A light monologue and then a poetic little number would have worked just fine. Instead, we got a chorus of reindeers accompanying this wilderness man. It's a fun song that's super memorable, but here's the kicker. Jonathan Groff voices all the reindeer parts. There are literally 18 tracks of him playing reindeer parts. If that's not beautiful, then nothing is. Josh Gad is comedy gold. The guy's been running the comedy game since The Rocker. Well, really since his role on The Daily Show. Anyways, we're pretty sure that's how he grew his improv chops and brought them up to a whole other level. Of course, we all know what his breakout role was. Parents and children alike adore him as Olaf, the sidekick snowman with an inclination towards fun.
I've always loved the idea of summer.
He suddenly became iconic, and Josh Gad can't talk anywhere without being recognized for the role. Which, for all the things to be noticed for, a talking snowman is a pretty sweet gig. What's even more surprising is Gad isn't known for voice acting. He certainly has the talent for it, but it wasn't the direction he headed down at the beginning of his career. So when he improv'd the Samantha joke in Frozen 2, we're pretty sure most viewers thought it was written out. After all, improv and voice acting isn't super common. Even when it is done, it often comes off awkwardly. This Samantha line is the exception, and thank goodness they went with that track. The journey to get Evan Rachel Wood as Queen Iduna was long and inspirational. We're not saying it was tough. In fact, it was the exact opposite. It was a joyful, exhilarating roller coaster that kicked off with fireworks. It seriously started the minute she walked in the door for the audition. Jennifer Lee and the cast told the press that they instantly felt a motherly vibe from Wood. Think about that. She came in for the audition and just screamed Queen Iduna before even reading the lines or anything. Talk about an instant fit. If you were wondering, she also sang the song Angela by the Lumineers for her audition. Maybe someday her audition tape will be released as a bonus feature on the DVD. We can only hope. She even got the call to tell her she got the role while she was visiting Disney World. It's poetic. Evan Rachel Wood is made for Disney. Every time you watch Frozen 2, we're confident you'll never see her character the same way. She already blended into the role, but this made things too perfect. The next right thing is something else. It's not the bop you belt in the car with your kids on the way to school. It's the song you play to get them to chill out and warp into an existential crisis. Okay, we joke. But seriously, props to songwriters Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez. It's a profoundly emotional performance that anchors the film and brings the story into its defining moments. Yes, it's from the same cave scene we mentioned earlier, which means it brings us back to Kristen Bell. Seriously guys, we're not kidding. Bell went all out, building Anna into a round character for this movie. Jennifer Lee and Kristen Bell recorded an emotional conversation they had about codependence and the emotions around grief. Lee then took that conversation and gave it to the songwriters to work their magic. The result is the next right thing. Knowing how much emotional construction went into making that song changes the whole scene. Adding that level of transparency creates a totally new feeling for the movie. Give us a second. We need to go grab some tissues. We'll be right back. It's been reported that Anna and Elsa's storylines in Frozen 2 diverge into two different story archetypes. For Anna, her arc is based on the traditional fairy tale structure that we are familiar with, and no. Differing from that is Elsa's arc, which is rooted in classical mythology and a hero's journey. Both are familiar to us as viewers, but they grow out of two completely different areas, which transitions nicely into Nock, the water spirit. Nock is a horse made entirely of water based on a traditional mythological character. It's said that the creature would test people by letting them ride on the horse's back. If they fell off into the water, they were abandoned and shown to be unworthy. The animation team even studied at equestrian centers and worked closely with horse trainers to get the movements precise. In total, it took the team 6 months to fully animate Nock. They dedicated half a year just to forming all these horses' movements and looks. Next time you watch the Nock scenes, just imagine the man-hours that went into each and every look and step. Those animators worked hard to make that myth come to life. No one can deny that. Traditionally, there are only a few ways to build a city from the ground up. There is old-fashioned brick and mortar, or Starship's favorite, rock and roll. Well, Arendelle is built from neither. The whole town is rendered through visual effects and lots of programming. There's no rock and roll in sight, well, unless you count the rock gnomes. For the first film, only a small segment of the town is ever shown. Go back and watch it. You'll find that much of Arendelle is undiscovered, and that's because the animation team simply never created it. Since most of the film is focused on locations away from the town, it made sense to invest time in other places. However, the production crew knew going in that Frozen 2 would be different. This time around, Arendelle was rendered entirely to its full scale. But wait, there's more! Turns out the animation team built the entire town from the ground up. They didn't even use the old models from Frozen. Sure, they replicated them for continuity, but it was still fresh and not copied. Talk about not taking the easy route. Well, that's all the time we have. Hey guys, welcome back to The Binger. Do you feel the chill in the air? No, it's not the changing of the seasons, but the fast approach of everyone's favorite ice queen, Elsa. Frozen 2 is around the corner, and we couldn't be happier. However, don't expect to see Elsa's iconic blue dress flapping around her heels. A lot has changed, including the outfits, but what does it all mean? Considering Disney doesn't typically go to this much trouble with costumes for characters, there's got to be a serious undertone to these garment changes. What is it? Stay tuned to find out. Wow, these two gals have more outfit changes than Cher. Elsa is following a voice in the theatrical teaser, which leads her down to a lake. While she's there, magic that isn't hers lights up the night around her. It's no secret that this sequel is darker than the first, and animators have done a good job reflecting that in the scenes. Elsa wears a deep purple robe-type dress that looks nothing short of dramatic. It's visually right on key, given the dark night and mysterious lights that surround her. But there's more to it than that. What could this costume change mean on a deeper level? Typically, purple is the color of royalty, and that's what she is. She's not just a princess anymore, but the leader of the country, the one in charge. She's a straight-up queen, and we're not using that as slang. Could this be a new, more focused wardrobe design to transition Elsa into adulthood? It's certainly miles away from the sharp blue getup that she created for herself way back when, although not quite so iconic. Now that she's a little bit older and wiser, perhaps Disney thought it was time for a change. There's also been a lot of speculation that our favorite platinum blonde could be going to the dark side again. Dark tendencies equal a dark wardrobe. You wouldn't see Maleficent wearing a floral number now, would ya? Just some food for thought. At its heart, Frozen has always been a tale about family. Poor Anna and Elsa were left devastated when their parents perished, and since Anna didn't know about Elsa's powers, the two drifted. The older sibling didn't want to endanger her sister again, so locked herself away. Sure, Frozen had a lot of ice magic that took center stage, but it was essentially about Anna and Elsa finding each other again and rebuilding their relationship. We can expect to see more of that relationship in the sequel. The trailers show the two as they cuddle up to each other, with Anna giving her big sis a comforting hug. In it, she wears a pale green dress. We've seen Anna in green before, but not anything like this. It's a simple long cut that is more casual than her usual clothes. The little snippet appears to show a bit of role reversal. Anna is putting an arm around her older sister, taking a motherly approach. We know that Anna and Kristoff are head over heels in love. So could this new garb and intriguing posture be a sign that Anna could end up with kids of her own? That is, if she doesn't have them already. It's been a good few years since we visited Arendelle, so anything is possible. Wouldn't it be sweet to see some teeny tiny little people running around that aren't trolls? When it comes to Disney princess looks, Elsa is the undisputed queen. Kids across the world have been dressing up in her trademark blue outfit for years now. After all, she's got powers that relate to ice, so her usual costume signifies that. However, in the trailer, it's clear that she's moved on from her earlier days. One of the first outfits we see her in is a pale pink off-the-shoulder number. As she gazes longingly over the balcony, the dress helps to give the impression that she's much softer. Perhaps this is to signify that she now has control over her powers, and isn't as harsh as she once was. Given how ice-crazy and frantic she was in the first movie, maybe Disney wanted her outfit to represent who she is now. There's no denying that Elsa spent a large chunk of the debut flick coming across as abrasive, fractured, and, well, just really unhappy. Pastel pink stereotypically hints at romance, so could Elsa be getting that much lobbied-for relationship? Considering that she's a powerful female leader, it wouldn't be surprising if she was being pressured into finding a significant other. However, it's unlikely that this would be a direction that Disney would go in, as it wouldn't be very PC. When Elsa gets some advice from the trolls, it kickstarts the journey into the great unknown. Anna, like any good annoying little sister, insists that she goes along for the ride. Before you know it, the pair are on their way to try and find the voices that are calling to Elsa. What does this situation need? Another costume change, of course. This time, Elsa is back in the color we all associate with her, but it's a slightly subtler shade of blue. This pastel dress is splattered with lace and is notably different from her iconic costume. However, it still has some of the same elements that we know and love, like slightly pointed sleeves and a long flowing cape. It also matches the big, mysterious cloud of mist that the sisters are about to launch themselves into. Granted, this is probably just a happy coincidence, but it looks nice on screen. What does this mean for the movie? It's hard to say, but Elsa certainly looks more business formal and practical compared to how we've previously seen her. It's a sleeker, more clean-cut version of her staple look, which may directly reflect her state of mind. This is a young woman who isn't controlled by her powers anymore. She controls them. Let's take the focus from Elsa for a minute and switch back to our favorite redhead. Anna has certainly been through the ringer, losing her parents, then essentially growing up alone with a reclusive sister. Throughout it all, she's remained loyal and loving. Props to her. If our siblings pulled that kind of nonsense, there would have been an endless amount of teasing well into old age. Thankfully, the royalty of Arendelle is made of sterner, more mature stuff than we are. In fact, it looks like that's something passed down through the generations. At the beginning of the full trailer, we get a glimpse of Queen Iduna, Anna and Elsa's mom. She watches on as her husband, King Agnar, tells his daughters the tale of the enchanted forest, pulling her purple cloak around her. We've seen Elsa wearing a similar purple cloak during her coronation, and now it looks like it's been handed down to Anna. As the sisters venture out on their quest, she wears it on her shoulders. Could this be a nod to the significant family bond that plays a part in the franchise? We know that Evan Rachel Wood stars as Queen Iduna, so is this a visual clue that there's more to come from the character? You can't have a decent teaser trailer for Frozen 2 without throwing in some of the ice magic we've come to hold so dear. Kids love it, and frankly, it's a major selling point. The entire franchise would be nothing if it wasn't for Elsa's witchery, so if you've got it, flaunt it. In one shot, we see our queen leaping from ice block to ice block, wearing what looks like a jumpsuit with a cape. It's very fitted to her body, making her look almost fairy-like. She's streamlined and live, like a sprite running through the woodland that you can't catch. A lot of fans have speculated that we will learn the origins of Elsa's ice magic in this feature. One of the few lines of dialogue we hear from the forest people is, "Where did you learn magic?"
Where did you learn magic?
This heavily implies that they're no stranger to the arts, and may even be the originators of it. This outfit could pay homage to Elsa's roots and signify that she's built for sorcery. It's in her very DNA. We already know she was born for it. She looks so natural and at ease with herself, especially since her hair seems to be out of its trademark plait and flowing free around her shoulders. On a side note, it seems to be the same outfit that she's wearing when she tries to find her way across the waves in the first trailer that was released. We have so many questions when it comes to this movie that it's hard to know where to begin. One of the biggest ones is, what exactly does the Enchanted Forest have to do with everything? Is it Elsa and Anna's birthplace? Is it keeping something in? Keeping something out? What do people do there? Thankfully, we won't have to wait too much longer to be put out of our misery. But for a while, it was excruciating, especially when we didn't have that final trailer. Now that we do, we've had a look at the forest people for the first time, and it looks like they've got some sort of army. We hear them say that Arendelle must be protected at all costs, and some of them are wearing a military-esque uniform. It might be a simple thing, but that tells us an awful lot about them as a society. For a start, they're not just this lawless cave-dwelling people. They live by law, have a purpose, and are intent on serving. It also alludes to some form of hierarchy. Every army or society is governed by someone or something. So who leads the forest people? When can we expect to meet them? They're also carrying shields and seem super concerned about anyone that comes into the mist. What's that all about? You don't just casually carry around a shield unless you're trying to protect yourself from something or someone. One of the best parts about Frozen was watching Anna and Kristoff realize they were head over heels for each other. Anyone is better than that evil Prince Hans, but Kristoff really takes the cake. He's sweet, dependable, loves Anna more than anything else, and also you'll never run out of ice. What more could you want? We know that their relationship has moved on thanks to the Frozen short. I love you, baby. Thanks to the final teasers, we now know it's on a whole new level. Fans have been wondering if they're going to tie the knot, or if they already have. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but it looks like all has been revealed. As Anna asks Kristoff if Elsa seems weird, he's in the background wearing what looks like a super comfy bathrobe. That might just be the confirmation we all needed, that these two have entered wedded bliss. The scene is also candlelit, and let's face it, Disney might be progressing, but they're not that modern. Anna and Kristoff probably are officially hitched, so we may see them taking this incredible journey together as husband and wife. There are worse honeymoons to have. Some people don't even make it to the next town over, let alone a magically enchanted forest full of interesting secrets. You can't book that at your local travel agent.
Well, Disney fans, Frozen 2 is out and it is simply magical. We finally get to catch up with Anna, Elsa, Olaf, and the eternally doomed citizens of Arendelle. While this movie is pretty much universally beloved, it did anger some fans out there. You see, the first Frozen lit up the imaginations of fans who were desperate to see it cross over with other Disney classics. These brilliant Disney experts analyzed every possible connection between it and other films, and they came up with some truly inspired options. Too bad that the sequel pretty much proved all of them wrong. So let's jump into the Frozen sequel and see which connections it destroys and which might still be left. Let's start with a recap. The sequel starts not too long after the first Frozen. Our gang is happily celebrating a newfound peace in Arendelle after the horrible events of the first film. Then we are thrust right back into the action as Elsa starts hearing a strange voice. She rushes out to meet it and accidentally awakens the 4 spirits of the forest: air, earth, fire, and water. You know, the basics. These spirits rush everyone out of Arendelle, and our heroes journey into the forest to figure out what exactly is going on. Once they get through the magical mist wall, they are attacked by the spirits before meeting up with 2 tribes of people. The North Aldra are the indigenous tribe of the forest who are still in conflict with the trapped Arendelle army. On top of that, Anna and Elsa discover that their mother was a member of the former tribe and that she saved their father. Everyone makes nice before Anna and Elsa decide to get to the bottom of the mystery of the forest. They journey towards Elsa's mysterious voice, where they find a big surprise: the boat that their parents perished in during the first film. They discover that the 2 of them were searching for where Elsa's powers came from when their ship sank. Elsa then sends Anna and Olaf away so that she can finish the journey alone. She wrestles with a cool water stallion before reaching the mystical Ahtohallan. There she learns the final truth: that their grandfather built a dam to weaken North Aldra before attacking them. This angered the forest and caused the spirits to separate it from Arendelle. Elsa slowly freezes, but manages to send Anna the message. Then Anna tricks a group of rock giants into destroying the dam for her, which saves Elsa and both tribes. Elsa then relinquishes her throne to Anna. Kristoff asks her to marry him, and they all live happily ever after once again. It's a fairly dark and complicated tale for a Disney movie that doesn't really connect with some of the larger theories Frozen fans had. One of the biggest hopes for Frozen 2 was that it would somehow establish a Disney princess cinematic universe. Fans hoped that it would sort of act as Iron Man from the MCU and establish links to other Disney movies for a possible crossover. Most of this was seeded in last year's Disney animated adventure. Ralph Breaks the Internet famously featured the scene where all of the Disney princesses united for the first time. Honestly, it was probably the best part of the entire film. This has led to a ton of speculation that Disney is making a princesses film. This would probably be the biggest event in Disney animated history. Can you imagine how incredible an Avengers-style princess movie would be? The day they announce it will probably be when every window on Earth shatters due to the squeals from little girls around the globe. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 didn't have any interest in referencing any other Disney movies. In fact, it walked back several references that the first film made, even retconning a few popular fan theories that were endorsed by the filmmakers. The biggest connection fans like to make between Frozen and the potential Disneyverse had to do with Tarzan. Many fans noticed some distinct parallels between the beginnings of both movies. Both feature a horrible shipwreck. While it is depicted as the end of Anna and Elsa's parents, the shipwreck in Tarzan features his parents getting marooned. Tarzan's parents escape into the jungle, where they are viciously attacked by Sabor. He is then raised by gorillas. Many fans think that Tarzan, Anna, and Elsa have the same parents, that the king and queen from Frozen were marooned in the jungle where they had little Prince Tarzan. It's even more convincing when you notice that the Frozen sisters' dad and Tarzan's dad both rock epic mustaches. I mean, how many people in the world can really grow a mustache that would make even Sam Elliott jealous? That's just statistically improbable. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 froze this theory and then shattered it into a million pieces. When Anna and Elsa find their parents' ship, it is very very clearly not in the jungle. If that weren't enough, Elsa uses the memory of water to determine that their parents did, in fact, drown in each other's arms. Brutal. Though you really have to wonder how reliable the whole memory of water concept really is. I may not have gotten an A in chemistry, but I'm pretty sure they made that up. The other big Disney movie that fans like to connect to Frozen is the one that started the Disney Renaissance. The Little Mermaid is one of the best princess musicals to ever grace the big screen, so it's no surprise the fans want to link it to the biggest princess musical of the 21st century. Thus far, that is. Just wait until the inevitable Princess Leia animated musical about growing up on Alderaan, though that one will probably have a pretty explosive ending. This theory also links up with that big shipwreck. Fans think that Ariel was singing in their parents' sunken ship during her big Part of Your World number. If you think that's ridiculous, then you just don't know Disney fans. They even consulted maps to determine the direct journey of the Arendelle royalty ship and where it could have sunk. There are experts who studied the Titanic with less passion than these fans did. It's too bad that it was all pretty much for nothing. Let's just freeze things before we continue. If you like this video, be sure to let us know by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications for more. It's the YouTube equivalent of warm hugs. Also, make sure you check out the Frozen videos on our sister channel, Screen Rant. If Frozen has taught us anything, it's that sisters have got to stick together. Moana featured lots of large anthropomorphic elemental gods. The trailers for Frozen 2 featured giant creatures that were stylistically similar to Te Kā and Te Fiti. Some fans hoped that the creators behind these movies might combine the lore of the two into one big magic system. If there were elemental gods of a forest, why couldn't they have been related to the gods of the ocean? Do gods have cousins? It might sound like a bit of a crazy stretch, but what better team up would there be than Elsa and Moana trying to save the world? Also, Maui and Olaf would get such a kick out of each other. What do you say, Disney? Ready to buy my screenplay yet? It's called Moana and the Frozen Ocean, and it's 6,000 pages long. I'll be waiting by the phone. While fans love to speculate about Frozen being connected to other Disney movies, there was one deliberately connected to it. Eagle-eyed fans caught a glimpse of two special characters in the crowd of Elsa's coronation, Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. That being said, the sequel forgot about this connection entirely. Fans were hoping for more connection to Tangled, maybe even another cameo. Instead, the film ignored its predecessor entirely. Apparently, Flynn and Rapunzel scored an invite to Elsa's coronation, but not to Anna's. That's gonna be awkward the next time they see each other. Now, no one really thought that Frozen 2 and the Disney movie Pocahontas would literally be connected. They were hoping that the new movie would reference the 90s classic, sure, and the two do have very similar plots and concepts. It's a shame that the filmmakers didn't drive into it more. Frozen 2's conflict between the people of Arendelle and North Aldra is very similar to the conflict in Pocahontas. The Native American tribe frequently clashes with the American Pilgrims. Through the union of Pocahontas and John Smith, though, they are able to establish an uneasy peace. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 doesn't really commit as much to the indigenous people of the Enchanted Forest. By the middle of the movie, they're basically written out. Sure, we're introduced to Ryder and Honeymaren, but neither are given much to do. And sorry folks, Honeymaren isn't Elsa's girlfriend after all. Probably more because she couldn't get over the name Honeymaren more than anything else. Can't really blame her. The other thing that fans were hoping for from Frozen 2 was that it might establish new characters for spin-offs. The hope here was that perhaps new magical characters might be introduced for future musicals. Fans hoped that Honeymaren, Ryder, and the mysterious girl in the leaves might be interesting enough for new franchises. This was actually a pretty solid assumption. Frozen is basically a money factory at this point. Seriously, go to any department store and you'll see more Frozen merchandise than you could possibly buy. The company that's made over 20 Marvel films and plans on making Star Wars movies forever would obviously love more stuff to monetize. Weirdly enough, this is the only property Disney seems uninterested in building more franchises off of. Not only do the new characters get hardly any screen time at all, seriously, not even a song, but they are pretty boring. It doesn't even seem like Frozen 2 is set up for a sequel of itself. The film wraps the story up pretty tight, even seeming to confirm that there will be no conflicts in the future. At this point, not only does a Frozen spin-off seem unlikely, but Frozen 3 as well. Though the movie did make a ton of money, so who really knows? No one thought Toy Story 3 was going to get a sequel either. While Frozen 2 lacked any big connections to other Disney properties, it did open a few doors. Dedicated animation fans were quick to point out that the magic system system in Frozen 2 is very reminiscent of Avatar. That's the last Airbender Avatar, not Blue Alien's Avatar. The classic series also revolved around magic concerning people and creatures manipulating earth, air, wind, and fire. It seems strange that a popular series would make such an obvious reference to one of the most revered animated series ever. Obviously, the animators are familiar with this property, so it's possible that this was an Easter egg? It's unlikely that there's any real connection, especially with an Avatar Netflix series on the way, but we can speculate. It would be awesome to see a sequel where Elsa expands her powers even more. She could use her time in the forest to master the other 3 elements and become the Avatar herself. Like Elsa, Aang was also able to commune with the spirits. It's not the most out there theory if you really think about it. That would actually be the theory that Elsa is going to end up with Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. There's no way that he's her type. While Frozen 2 slammed the brakes on quite a few fan theories, there are still possibilities. The most popular shared universe fan theory out there is the Pixar theory. Part of this theory involves the witch from Brave traveling between Pixar universes. If this is somehow true, which some fans hope Onward will confirm, other Disney movies could be brought in. This could mean that we might see a crossover that shares more with Crisis on Infinite Earths than the Avengers. A unification of all Disney characters from Elsa to Mickey to Darkwing Duck would be about the most epic thing ever. It would potentially top the portal scene from Endgame, maybe. The other possibility is that these films might cross over inside the Wreck-It Ralph world. In that universe, we're introduced to alternate versions of Anna and Elsa. These versions are basically personifications of internet searches. They could unite with other princesses, various Disney characters, and Baby Groot to save the universe. You're a liar if you say you don't want to see Elsa, Mulan, Ariel, Pocahontas, and Jasmine fight together. There is one more pretty obvious connection between Frozen 2 and a famous fictional property. When the Northuldra people lock hands and make a spiral, it's very similar to a different spiral-obsessed culture. That's right, the Northuldra are definitely White Walkers from Game of Thrones in disguise. I mean, what children's movie franchise doesn't want to cross over with an R-rated fantasy series? The Night King is obviously going to be Elsa's arch nemesis. I mean, it couldn't go any worse than it did in Game of Thrones Season 8. Maybe Disney would do a better job with him. Also, who wouldn't love a dance number between Olaf and a bunch of ice zombies? That scene just writes itself, honestly. Seriously, it wrote itself into my 6,000 page script. There you have it, all the Frozen connections that were cut off in the sequel. Do you have any Frozen 2 Disney theories? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more from The Binger.